Good morning, 7:23 a.m. We're about to head out for our trip. I just woke up, so the brain is not functioning yet, but here we go. We're going to Washington. We're waiting to go to the Oakland airport, and we get a visit from Bea. I missed her so much.
Bea.
Honey, you're on camera.
Oh, you should
show off how cute you are. She always wants to go wherever we go when we're in the car. And she especially loves to sit on my lap.
On your pants.
Oh, yeah. I think she's incontinent now that she's old.
Incontinent. I said incontinence.
Yeah, mama. Oh, I love her. All right. See you at the airport. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time to watch this video and for sticking with me even after you saw how I looked in that first clip. I appreciate you. Please subscribe while you're here and do the things that YouTubers tell you to do. Anyway, I am in the plane right now, which is pretty obvious. Getting on the plane was stressful as hell. We almost missed our flight, and there was like no people from the airline that we were flying from, and it was like an entire mess, but we made it by the skin of our teeth, and I was so relieved. And here we are, flying to Washington. I thought I'd give you a little clip of me and the mans, and that's about it. You know, sometimes we don't need that much voiceover, but here I am doing the damn thing. I think that might be Mount Rainier, or I might just be full of crap, but I recorded that mountain for a reason. I think I was just like, ooh, mountains. Anyway, this is the airport in Bellingham where we flew into, and here's the car we rented. Once we arrived at the Bellingham airport, we drove into Seattle, which was like a 2-hour drive at the most. It wasn't bad at all, and the drive was scenic. I didn't record the scenic part, though, because I'm stupid.
Okay, well, this is where people usually clean themselves. This is where people eliminate waste from themselves.
Thank you for this helpful tour of the bathroom.
This is where people keep a nice personal hygiene.
Okay.
This is a mirror.
I didn't even tell them that we were in our hotel yet, but I think that's pretty clear. We're at the hotel, at the Hyatt in Seattle.
I gotta go to that.
Really just wanted to show you the view. Since we have such beautiful, gorgeous weather, I don't know if it will continue to be this perfect. Fingers crossed, but man, you can see everything. The first thing we did when we arrived in Seattle was go to Pike's Place Market, which is a huge tourist destination, and it is so cool. Way better than the piers in San Francisco. So I was very impressed and very happy. The first store we actually walked into to explore was called the Purple Store, where everything inside is purple. It's insane. I don't know how you find that much purple stuff, but I just thought it was such a novelty that I recorded a little bit of it. It was pretty fun, pretty cool. I didn't buy anything from there. I actually only bought like a few souvenirs, but they were not from the Purple Store. But take it in. Look at all that purple. Then we went to get lunch at a Turkish restaurant that also had Turkish delight. And oh my gosh, we got this amazing gyro sandwich with some Turkish delight and a Turkish coffee, and man, it was delightful. We just walked across the street and had a little picnic for lunch. It's a beautiful day. Oh my gosh, the weather was perfect. And I straight up am in love with Turkish delight. I cannot believe I'd never had it before. I want to learn how to make it so bad. I was totally that kid in friggin' Narnia. I would sell my soul for some Turkish delight. What you're seeing now are some of the main walkways at Pike's Place. In front of you, you can see all of these flower shops on your left-hand side, and they are everywhere in Pike's Place. You see people walking out of there with the most gorgeous bouquets ever. If I weren't on vacation, I would have got one because they're so spectacular. But it's really cool to walk through and see everything. There's just like so much life and excitement, so it was really fun. And to be honest, I just thought this looked really cool. I loved the retro circus vibe, so here we go. After we finished exploring Pike's Place, we went on a boat tour of the bay in Seattle, and that's what you're looking at. So I just recorded a little bit of it, you know, for prosperity and stuff. There's the Great Wheel that is also at Pike's Place Market, and Roberto and I went on that later in our trip, but it's really a beautiful city, so clean. I was a fan. I feel like I could end up living in Washington one day and be super happy. This is the Space Needle. Woohoo. Wow, I am not a good tour guide, but I don't really know much about what I'm talking about, so I'm just letting you know. Then I forced Roberto to take a selfie with me, even with the sun in our eyes. We went to a brewery / restaurant. Definitely Roberto's jam. As you'll notice, there's definitely some brewery shots in here. The food was really good. We got amazing burgers. And then we went home for the night, and we had an amazing view at our hotel. And then I got ready for the next day. And there I am, you know. Cute little bitch. Want to say hi and good morning? Our hotel was so close to the Space Needle that we could walk the whole distance. So once we got up, we just hit the road and walked a few blocks to the Space Needle. And we spent the whole day in that area doing the tourist stuff. We did the Space Needle first, and then we did the Museum of Pop Culture and Chaluli Glass Museum, and they're spectacular. So here we are at the Space Needle. There was long lines. It was hot. I was a little cranky and hungry, to be honest, but it was amazing. I don't think I was too grouchy with Roberto, but, you know, I may have been a little grouchy. Oh, yeah, actually, I was so hungry that I got ice cream at the top of the Space Needle, and it was, like, way overpriced. It was, like, $14. And it was delicious, to be fair, but it was overpriced and super rich, so I kind of had a tummy ache. Once we finished up at the Space Needle, we went over to the Museum of Pop Culture. This place was awesome. And the first exhibit we saw was about LGBTQ plus movements and progress in that area. And it was very informative. I think this display was very well done. There was a lot of information and memorabilia, and was definitely in support of all of the progress that we've had, and also educates around the progress that still needs to happen. Here are a bunch of famous artists' guitars. I'm noticing the one on the right is from Brandi Carlile, who is from Washington and is also one of my favorite artists, so that's really cool. I actually didn't notice that while I was there. Wow. But anyway, it was really cool to see these beautiful instruments on display. And then they have this incredible guitar tower. After that, we headed over to their sci-fi exhibit, and they have memorabilia from so much stuff. It is so fascinating to see all of these costumes and props from movies, and it just it kind of like blows your mind to see all this stuff in real life. I made sure to record some of the hoverboards that they used for Back to the Future. And I also saw that they had one of the Ghostbusters props of the ghost fighting gun things that they use in the movies. And I thought that was awesome. And the weapons are pretty sweet. Then we went to the horror section, which was like not really my vibe because I do not like scary things. But they made it so it wasn't totally horrifying. I mean, it was still creepy. There were certain things I didn't look at for too long. I did think that the vampire section was really cool. This is the vampire section. So I enjoyed that. I liked the stained glass. The fantasy section was definitely my favorite exhibit at the Mopop. I just love fantasy, and I got to see props from some of my favorite movies, from Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. It was so cool. This exhibit in the museum was definitely so fun because it felt so transformative, like you were really in some kind of fantastic place. And they had so many amazing original props to look at. And I could not believe I got to see some of the original Harry Potter stuff. That was definitely a highlight for me. Once we wrapped up at the Mopop, then we went and had some lunch. I was very hungry, and we just had hot dogs because that was about the only option available nearby, but they were delicious and I was super pleased. I'm never mad about having a yummy hot dog. And once we had our bellies full, we were feeling pretty peppy, and then we got to go to the Chaluli Glass Museum, which is absolutely amazing. So here we are at the Chaluli Glass Museum, and man, it blew my mind. I really don't have words to describe how spectacular Chaluli's work is. If you have the chance to go to this museum, I definitely recommend it. It's just, you're transported into a different world. I have only amazing things to say about it. I could have stayed there for hours and hours and just stared at everything. Because I loved it so much, I did put a lot of footage of it in here. I just couldn't stop recording. It was like everything I saw just blew me away. It was like, even if I had looked at it for a little while, I'd look at it again and it would be like I had never seen it. But yeah, it's really something else. And I can only imagine the amount of work and hours it took Chaluli to create all of these pieces. There's so many. It's truly unbelievable how many glass sculptures are in this place. And man, just looking at the footage makes me so happy that I got to go there.
I didn't tell you, I love beer. Georgetown Brewing Company, gas, as the kids say nowadays.
After our beer tasting, then we went to dinner at a Spanish restaurant, and it was spectacular. They offered a bunch of fun tapas, which is always fun for me because I like tasting a bunch of different foods. What do you think of the Once we were done with that, we rushed on over to the Great Wheel because it was about to close and we needed to make sure we used our tickets that we had already bought the previous day but didn't have a chance to use. So anyway, we rushed back and we ended up being the last people to get on the Great Wheel, and it was so cool to see the city at night all lit up. It was definitely beautiful. I wish I could have captured it better on camera, but you know, some things are just better in real life. But it was very, very fun. I had a good time. The next morning, it was time for us to go back to Bellingham, where we would spend the next 2 days of our trip. And our first excursion that we had planned was whale watching. We went to Bellingham at the time of year when there's a lot of orcas migrating in that area, so it was perfect timing for us to actually do some whale watching. And we got super, super lucky and actually saw some whales. We saw a family of orcas. I think there was 3 orcas that we were able to see for like 30 minutes. That footage is coming up in a moment, which is kind of hilarious because I did a terrible job. You have to time when you record perfectly because they go down and swim and then in a certain amount of time they come up for air. And I just totally missed them. So here is an image of a whale instead. But it did in fact see multiple orcas. After that, we drove to an awesome fish and chips place, and it was so good, minus Roberto spinning lemon seeds at me. And we had clam chowder. Oh, it was so amazing. All right, then we hit up our new hotel in Bellingham and got situated. We were pretty tired that evening, so we just got some Thai food takeout and then chillaxed in the hot tub. The next day, I made sure we went to some coffee shops because we were in Washington, after all. The first one we went to was Avellino, and I got a latte, and Roberto got a chai latte, and both were very delicious. United States.
It's very good.
It's really good. Yummy chai. Following the coffee shop, we went to a bagel joint called the Bagelry, and that place was amazing. They had a bunch of different flavors of fresh bagels and different kinds of cream cheeses to choose from. We went with something kind of standard, but it was delicious. Then we drove to a local park with a waterfall. However, because of the drought, the waterfall is very, very sparse, as you will see in the upcoming clips.
This is cool. It's like this whole thing is just like.
Following our trip to the waterfall, we went to an outdoor sculpture display. It's like a Zen garden with a bunch of different local artists' work on display. That was pretty fun. It was very calm and quiet, and it was just kind of a low-key thing to do. Me being the artsy-fartsy lady I am, I really liked going to this place, and I also recorded way more than I needed to include, so I cut down a lot of it. But there was a bunch of fun sculptures to look at. After the sculpture garden, we went to Whatcom Lake and rented a kayak. Just enjoyed the view, being on the water. It was so peaceful that Roberto fell asleep from time to time, but luckily we did not tip over. After that, we went to the very cute town of Fairhaven. And in this place, we just explored all the little shops We went to an art gallery and saw some beautiful photos. We went to a rock and gemstone store, which is always something Roberto and I like to do. He collects rocks and gemstones, so going to these places is always very, very fun. There's a lot to explore. Then it was time for some delicious gelato. I got Butterfinger flavor. It was the best ever. Then we went to an Oddities Shop, which was my favorite store that we went into. The store had a bunch of unique, kind of creepy, super artistic, quirky items. So it was really fun for me to look at all of it and just like do a little investigating to see the fun things I could find. So while you're watching this clip, I'm sure if you pause during different sections, you'll find a bunch of different and unique items. Then we hit up a toy store because if there is a toy store somewhere, I have to go inside. And this was a really good one. It had amazing games and tons of different crafts. And I'm all about that sort of stuff. After that, we went to a glass art store, which was very beautiful. We ended up buying one of the hanging pieces that was of a couple whales to commemorate our trip. Right now that piece is hanging in our kitchen and I think it's so cute. I'm super happy with what we chose. After this, we decided to get a little bit more coffee because we were feeling a little tired and we had another drive ahead of us. So we drove along the coast and went out to dinner at a place called Chuckanut Manor. And this was like our one fancy dinner of the trip. So we really balled out. We got this ciocchini dish to share. And oh my gosh, it was so delicious. It was the perfect meal to end with. After we ate, we went to a lookout point to take in the sunset. And we even walked down to see the coast. And this was our last taste of Washington before we went home. It was a very peaceful way to end our trip, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.